speaker will be Miss Nicole Bright, and she will speak about happily ever after divorce. Miss Bright is such a beautiful young lady who I had the honor of interviewing. And when she talked to me about divorce, it made divorce not look so ugly. You know, usually when people speak of divorce, they speak of sorrow, depression, letdown, failure. But when this lady talked to me about divorce, she opened my eyes up to opportunity, newness of life beyond divorce. So let me proudly welcome my beautiful friend, Miss Nicole Bright.
No matter how many times you have experienced pain, fight to rise from the ashes, win your hope back, soak up all the good thoughts, and channel them unto love. You are a phoenix, and your heart deserves to bloom. So fight. So I want you guys to know that there's a phoenix in each and every one of you. In Greek mythology, it talks about the phoenix. When you go down in the ashes, die, and come back up new again. So I'm going to share a very personal story with you today about how I died and came back up, my phoenix story. And I'm telling you, it took me so long to get up and speak about this. But it needs to be said. Because there's no shame in divorce, there's no failure in divorce, there's this new birth and beginning again. So, March the 20th, 2018 is a day that I would never, ever forget. It's just like they said, when 9/11 happened, you knew where you were, right? That's how March 20th was for me. So I got a phone call. And on the other end of the line was a very familiar voice to me. And she was so distraught. She could hardly speak. She could hardly get out of her words. And all she could say is, "You're going to hate me for the rest of your life. You're going to hate me for the rest of your life. You're going to hate me." And I'm like, okay, let's just take it one step at a time. Tell me what you're talking about. And she just couldn't. She was just, it's like her words, and she was just suffocating in them. And so the pit of my stomach, I had such a nervous feeling because I knew whatever she had to tell me, I knew that I needed to hear it, but I didn't want to hear it. And so I did everything I could do to get her to tell me what she wanted to tell me. I was like, I know she wants to tell me. So you know how you just try to convince people, oh, I'm never going to hate you. Don't worry. Even though I know those words may not be true, I just need to get what she had from me. And so as silence went on the phone, my gut was just boiling over, and I didn't even know. And I already had tears in my eyes because she was so close. And she said, "I slept with your husband." And right away, I believed her. I knew that it was the unadulterated truth, and that she's been holding this. And the biggest thing was, she said, it was 9 years ago. So this woman had been carrying this around for 9 long years. You know, a lot happens in 9 years, right? I had had a whole child by this man since that happened. So imagine how I felt. I was so devastated, hurt, and he was in the other room. So, I don't know, God just gave me peace and calmness through the storm. And so I just began to talk to her. I wanted to know where, when, why, how. I wanted to know it all. So she just started talking to me. She told me, and all I got, and I just hung up the phone. She wanted to know how I felt about her. No, I just hung up the phone. And to show you how devastating this was in my life, I got to back up for you. I got to do a flashback, okay? So, as a young person, I never loved me. I was never comfortable in my own skin. I never knew who I was. I was full of insecurities. I was dumb, stupid, ugly, whatever you can think of that was negative, that's what I was. I don't have all the time to tell you why, but that's how I felt. So at the age of 15, I met some people that saved my life. And I knew something was different about these people. And whatever they had, I wanted. And I needed some of that now. Because at 15, and when you're going through, and you're not like anybody else, and you don't fit in, you need a lifeline to save you. And that's what they were to me. So what I was seeing was the God in them. And so they said, this is how you be saved. This is what you do and all that. I was like, oh, sign me up. I know not all 15-year-olds do this. I'm like, sign me up. That's what I want to do. This is what I want to be. So I started going to church weekly. I'm going to come on down a little bit. So I started going to church weekly. And as I looked around in church, I said, wow, I belong here. For the first time in life, I belong somewhere. I belong to some people that loved me. And so that's what the church began to me. But as I looked deeper, I was like, okay, this is husband, wife, children. There were families all around me. I was magnetized to it. It was like, oh my goodness, I've never seen this. Because in my life, in my neighborhood, there were just broken homes. There was the woman doing the best she could with the children, and there were not a lot of man figures around. And to see a man figure, I mean, and they were always raising their hands and praising the Lord together, and the little kids were running around. They were just doing this together. And I said, this is what I want. So at 15, this is what I decided. That was my number one goal, was to get married and to have children and to be saved and him be saved. We're just going to have these kids together. Perfect family, right? Like I seen on the pews, right? That's what they were, right? So that's what I wanted, and that's what I fell in love with. And this was 15. And so I felt like it took forever to find somebody. Or, I'm sorry, for him to find me, they say. We all know I was looking and I kind of found somebody myself. And so I was at the ripe old age of 22 when I got married. I felt so old because I had young people all around me at 18, getting married 19, and it was the culture of the church I went to. It was just a culture. And so I went into this marriage with all my insecurities. I didn't even know I had them, you know. Went into the marriage with all these insecurities, and I was like, okay. 4 years later, I had the daughter. 7 years later, I had the son. So I had the perfect family, right? Even though there was things all around me showing imperfection. You know, decided to find out who I was. Wrote a whole book about knowing who you are, identity crisis. You know, wanted to coaching people to their purpose, and I did that. And a lot of things were lacking in me. So when March 20th happened, and I'll never forget, I had some people say, oh no, not the life coach, you're getting divorced, what? You know? And so March 20th happened, you all, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. I could no longer just sit there and act like everything was okay. You don't understand, my identity was wrapped up in one thing, wife. In order to be a good, godly Christian woman, I had to be a good wife. In order to be a good mother, I had to be a good wife. And who was controlling what a wife meant to me? Oh, my then husband. He had so much control. Every day I thought, how can I please this man? What do I need to do? How can I be a good wife so God can love me even more? So that was what I was all about. So when your identity is into being a good wife, and then you're no longer that, what happens? That's right. So this happened March 20th, 2018. So by April the, I think 17th, 18th, I was in my own apartment. Guess why? Because it was time to go. I prayed about it, and God said, how much more you can take? I think he was even tired of me praying about this thing. So the doors started opening, you all. And I was so insecure that he was in charge of the finances. I didn't have a car. I mean, I had nothing, but I had everything. And so as I stepped into that apartment and my friends surrounded me, And piece by piece, things started coming. He was in control of everything, and my credit was just so bad. And so the first thing I did is I did all the brick and mortar stuff, right? I got the apartment, I got the furniture. I started working on the credit, got a new car, I started working on the credit. I started building everything up. But what was lacking was me. Who was I? After I'm no one's wife, who was I? So for years, in my insecurities, I didn't feel that I was pretty. I didn't feel that I was smart. I didn't feel like I was capable. But guess what? My actions were not lining up with my thoughts. Because my actions were saying I could step out into a new zip code that was better than the one I had before. My actions were saying that I didn't have to have a pizza car, that I could get a new car. My actions were saying my kids were in a better area. And the school was right there out the window, and they had to drive 20 minutes no more to a better school system. That's what my actions were saying. My actions were saying that the man I had wasn't the one for me because I found better. Yes. So once I changed my outlook on what it really meant to be me and who I really was, and that I was not just a wife, but I was an intelligent, smart, brilliant, beautiful woman of God, then I really knew. And I learned to love myself inside out, which I really didn't think was possible because I didn't know all that was in me. So, I believe that a lot of people feel when they get divorced that it's the end, when it's really the beginning. And what I decided to do is to really look at my responsibility in the marriage, what I had to hold on to, what I did. See, it was a lot that he did. It was a lot. It was physical abuse. It was mental abuse. And there was the cheating. I always told myself there was two things I couldn't stand for, the hitting or the cheating. I allowed the hitting to go on a couple of times, but like I said, when the story went on and he was with someone that I was deeply close to, knew this woman all her life, and I knew right then he didn't have any respect for me. And you know why he didn't? I didn't respect myself. So, we need to learn to fall in love with ourselves. Because at the end of the day, when everything's stripped away, who's in the mirror standing back at you? See, what I'm here to do is, my purpose is for you to take a piece of me with you. For my words to be a bridge for you to get to where you need to go. Because we have to allow ourselves to know, no matter what, I am who he created me to be. And when I had my ups and downs, what I started to do is establish a business. And my business is recovery after divorce. I created 12 steps. My greatest breakdown made my greatest reward in my life. When I can help someone go through what I went through and come out on the other side better, that's awesome. See, it wasn't for my failure, it was for my risen. See, you can't look at stuff like, why did he do it? Why did he say that? Why did he do that? Why doesn't he love me? Why am I not enough? So you have to say, why did I allow him to do that? Why do I feel that way about myself? Once I started researching that, then I said, oh my gosh, what I did when I got married, all my insecurities I had, I just gave it to him and asked him to fill them. I didn't think I was smart enough, so I allowed him to take care of the finances. Even when I got my own business, he would always run that and control that, all the technical stuff, because I didn't think I was smart enough. Oh, how are you going to wear your hair? Oh, he's going to dictate that to me because I didn't feel like I knew enough. I wanted to be pretty for him, but not for myself. So you got to know who you are in order to be stable in who you are. And so once I started examining all that, And I found me. And I became brand new. And the woman I used to be couldn't handle what I'm doing today. I could never go back there because she doesn't belong. But what I learned about her was she was strong, though, because she would do a lot of things to keep her family together. But we have to learn that it's not about the outward appearance. It's about the inward appearance. I look at families today, and I used to look at them, and I used to, when I first left him, I feel so sad. Like, my kids will never have that. Parents walking down the street, going to a game together, doing this and that. And now I look at them, and I say, I wonder what they're going through. Because it's always something. But it's all about what's best for you and for those little individuals you created, if you've created any. And it's not always being together. Sometimes it's being apart and being happy and healthy. I'm all for the marriage unit, but not if it's tearing you down. You must have your Phoenix moment. No matter if it's about divorce or something else. We all had something that took us down into the ashes, and now we have to be reborn. How are you going to come back up? How are you going to look, feel, think, and how are you going to heal? I just want you to know that your story is not over. If you have a pause, you have a purpose. Your development has continued from this point on. So, no matter how many times you have experienced pain, fight to rise from the ashes, win your hope back, soak up all the good thoughts, and channel them unto love. You are a phoenix. Your heart deserves to bloom again. So, fight.